You don't need another magic workout. In fact, you could keep your training exactly the same as it is right now, but make this one change. What you need is race reps. Short, frequent races that harden your pacing, sharpen your tactics, and turn training into results. And I'm gonna give you 20 ways that racing not only makes you a faster racer, but improves all of your training. Let's go through what regular racing gives you. Number 20, regular racing gives you exposure to the exact stress that you're gonna feel or very similar to race day. Imagine if you're only racing twice a year. Of course, there's gonna be more nerves and anxiety around those situations because it's unfamiliar territory. Imagine getting that mentality to a point where racing was no longer not just a problem for you, you actually look forward to it and thrived off the race energy. Number 19, pressure control. Imagine all that adrenaline and imagine all of that working for you instead of against you. And if we think of a fight situation, very confrontational, you can look at those situations and see somebody that has clearly been there before. Maybe they've got fighting experience and training behind them. They're well equipped to deal with any situation, even if the opponent is far bigger and stronger. If that opponent hasn't got the required skills to deal with the situation, you can see that play out in real time, and it's fascinating to watch because it's so clear who has the confidence and who doesn't, and how that will affect the result. Think of that as a runner. If you are used to race start lines and the process of racing, imagine all that good adrenaline can work for you to give that extra race day energy and help deliver you further on in the race with better control so that you can put yourself in a position to execute. Number 18, pacing calibration. Now, we trained all summer in the heat. We trained to effort, and then later it's getting a little bit cooler so we can put the pace in there and get familiar with that pace. What we're not familiar with, if we've not raced, is how race day energy, those nerves and anxiety affects heart rate and perceived effort. But again, like that fight situation, the more that we get used to it, the more that we understand our body and the more disciplined we're able to stay because we're not going off our emotions, we're going off our plan. Together with the perceived effort, which we've got well under control because of the amount of race experience we've got under our belt. Number 17, and this is key, not just for the racing, but also for your training and recalibrating. How does the perceived effort match your heart rate in a race situation? Exactly as we were just saying, but how can we then improve the training based on that? We can do all the scientific work in the lab as we want and get it really dialed in, but until we test that regularly in race situations, and we know exactly what the body is capable of, but how that translates into a race situation, then we'll know, for example, when we're crossing into that red, we're crossing that threshold, the point of no return, and we've got to keep that under control. Races are perfect for this. Number 16, and now we're coming on to the tactics and the racing itself and how that improves our game. Racing and training, start line and positioning. Now, if we get this right and we get the first couple of miles right, it's going to serve us well throughout the race, yes, but definitely in that final quarter where it really counts, especially if it's a long race like a marathon. And this takes experience because we're not training amongst 30,000, 50,000, or even 2,000 runners. And we've all been there well back and we feel that there's slower runners in front of us. And so we're bobbing and weaving, we're panicking because we're missing out splits straight from the get-go, when in actual fact, it's all about being calm and realizing that within no time at all, you're going to find your space on the road. And then it's about getting into your rhythm. And all of that nervous panic, all of that energy wasted can be put to use on making time up in the final third of the race. Number 15. Now, there's a reason that if you've run track and field or you've run high school cross country, you'll be familiar with this and it will come back very quickly, but it's something we can learn very quickly too, once we understand what's actually going on and get that race experience to work for us. And that is pack tactics. Making that call between when it's right to surge a little bit, use a little bit of energy to get onto that next pack or that next group, because you can be shielded by the wind and conserve energy, is something that you learn through racing. Remember, it's all about saving energy to deliver ourselves later on in the race to be able to perform, to be able to execute with good energy. So if we can conserve energy by making that split-second decision of whether to chase a pack or stay with your pack, it massively helps. Number 14, what you also then get is that surge management. So once you have surged, and you see this a lot in the Tour de France or professional cycling, once you have surged, how do you then get your breath back, get back into that pack, tuck in so you're shielded from the wind? How does that work? And with practice, not only do you become obviously better at that, there's no panic and it's very decisive. And once you fit back in, okay, relax and get back into our rhythm. Number 13. Now, we've done all that work over the winter, for example, and we've got Boston Marathon in our sights. We're gonna run that sub 3. This is our day. Then all of a sudden, it's a hotter day. It could quite easily be, as we've seen it before when Yuki won, it could quite easily be torrential rain, almost cold off. We've got to wear a rain jacket for the first 20 miles. How does that change our mentality? But also, how do we manage psychologically letting our target slip away? Because it's no longer possible, or it's no longer probable based on the new conditions. We're dealt a curveball. How do we react to that situation? If we've got enough race experience, then we're going to become better at making the judgment on how to run that day, usually based on effort, how to get something from the day instead of just saying, well, I've trained for this for the last 6 months, and therefore I'm going to go out at this pace even though it's so much hotter than I thought it was going to be. That stubbornness is great in running. Keep that, but make it work for you. Use it when you need to dig in during the race, but again, set yourself up for success so you get to that final half, final third, or final 6 miles in a good place to execute based on the conditions, the cards that you've been dealt for that day. Not easy to do, but race experience gives you that. And we've all been there where we thought, I'm going for it anyway, and come unstuck. It's not a bad lesson, actually, and it's a good thing to learn, but the other way will give you more data to learn more. Number 12, how to pace in order to get that elusive negative split. What you see with a lot of first marathon runners, and you can take a lot from this, is they go off too quick because the perceived effort in the first 6 miles is completely different to the final 6 miles. They misjudge it. And again, that's a good lesson to learn. But what frequent racing will teach you is patience, deliver yourself to that point, then push, and then get up into those higher heart rate zones where you know you could only last for a short amount of time, and you can then put yourself in a place where you can deliver that negative split. But I promise you this, 99% of the time, you will not get 100% from your body. And I have paced marathons perfectly and come out with a 1 minute negative split. Immediately upon finishing, crossing the finish line, I thought I could have gone faster in the first half. You're always gonna feel either that way, or at the 30K, the 35K or further, you're gonna feel like you're digging in and it's a war of attrition and you're just trying to get to the end. If you're lucky enough to have both of those experiences, it's gonna be brilliant for you. But you're more likely to get that by racing frequently. Number 11. Who are you when it really counts? And this is my favorite part of marathon running, ultra marathon running, but you could even find this out in a 5K and a half marathon, which is why racing frequently really helps, because you push it, you don't know whether you can finish the job. Who are you at that point? It's so important, and it will teach you way more about yourself than just running will. But what it will obviously do for you is improve who you are at that decision-making process. Perceived effort goes through the roof. You don't know whether you can finish the job. You've still got 7 kilometers or 4 miles to go. Who am I? Some people never return from that. They never want that experience again. I think it's the perfect place to be as a runner and a racer. And you know what happens when you race more frequently. You become, okay, this is happening and I'm gonna suffer for the next 30 minutes, but this is who I am. And I'm really happy to have this experience. Number 10, fueling timing and caffeine. Now, we've got this locked in, hopefully, from the training. So it's no surprise on race day morning. What changes is with that anxiety, with the added level of nerves, maybe you're in a different city, maybe even a different country, what can your stomach tolerate? How is that working for you? What about if you add caffeine? How does that work? Why are you thinking about that 2 days before the race? Once you get to a point where you realize, okay, this is my strategy, this is what I've trained with, and this is what works for me, and how to alter that slightly for race day, maybe that's a caffeine gel. with 10 miles to go or 6 miles to go. But by racing frequently, you understand how your body is operating, again under that stress and slightly different situation. Number 9, exactly the same point for hydration and sodium intake. It's amazing, again, how many people start to think about this point 1 week out, a couple of days out before their race. The biggest tip I can give you is fix all this in your training. But also, we're all having the same problem around water, around carrying gels, around sodium intake. How to carry it, when to take it, etc. It's an ongoing trial and error experiment, which is going to be refined by the racing process. One really good tip I can give you is, in a race situation, whether it's a half marathon, a 10K even, especially a marathon, you're looking after your future self. So it's always a case of you drink before you feel as if you need it. Exactly the same with that first gel. Don't feel as if you need it. It feels light and easy for you, but you're locked into your strategy. And it might be that in a race, it's the first time you've picked up a bottle at that 5K table. You don't even know what that's like. It's great to practice with that in training if you can. But again, more racing is going to help you. Okay, looking up, what side of the road is the next drink station on? Got to get over there. Am I better at picking up with my right or left arm? Also, it's cups. Everybody hates cups, but what's the best way to pick a cup on the go at speed and then pinch the lip so that you can get as much in as possible and ideally hit that 3rd or 4th table and take another one? That takes practice, and it also takes practice under pressure. Again, perfect situation is a race. Number 8, and you will only make this mistake once or twice. Gut preparation for the race. Maybe the city you're in is slightly different to back home. Doesn't have the bananas, doesn't have the oats that you were looking for. Carry stuff in, especially if you're traveling internationally, especially to a different continent. Carry it in your suitcase, and ideally your handheld, what you're gonna eat on the morning of, and ideally the day before. I'm a crazy person, so I'll take sweet potatoes. I know that they're available in most countries, but I want to know that I've got access to them the night before the race. Exactly the same with dry oats. And again, on the morning of the race, nothing changes to those long runs and interval sessions. So in actual fact, those have all been dress rehearsals. It's just that your stomach, maybe the logistics around the race and getting to the start line are slightly different to what you're used to. Number 7, how are we going to carry everything? Now, again, we've been practicing with this in training, so it's no longer a surprise on race day. But don't do anything drastically different. If you're in that mindset that all of a sudden come race day, it's 26 miles and therefore I want to carry a handheld bottle, it's going to change the way that you run. And you might think, oh, it's only 300 mil or 500 mil, it's not that much weight. Half a kilogram or even 300 grams every single step for average 170 cadence times the amount of minutes you're out there. Think of how that changes the way that you run. And it's not, again, you're not going to feel it in the beginning. You're going to feel it in that 3rd hour once the body starts to get fatigued. And I promise you, it will be the side that you're carrying the bottle that has the issues. Exactly the same with a Camel Back. If you've not been using it in training because you've been linking together water fountains or whatever, don't then suddenly run with that. There's going to be chafing, there's going to be sore spots. Don't do it. Let yourself be as free as possible. And again, reverse engineer this so you're practicing in the training and knowing that every 5K in most races, you've got access to water, along with how to carry your gels and keeping that frequency from training. Super important to get all that right in training and then refine in the racing. Number 6, now again, we're practicing with everything in the training, but there are some things that just need that race exposure in order for you to neat and a point. It's amazing in the build-up, when we're doing a short race, maybe it's a 10K or half marathon en route to a marathon, there's often something. It might be the shorts just don't fit the gels in, or the gels were wobbling around or something like that. It might be the vest or the shoes or something that needs changing. And because you're giving yourself that race experience, we can change that before the A goal. Number 5, warm-up routine before you race. Now, if this is a big city marathon, the problem is, where are you going to warm up? When are you going to warm up? Are you going to warm up 1 hour before you've got to get into your pen? And then what? Stay cold like this? We're just going to lose energy, waste energy, and also waste carbohydrate, especially if that carbohydrate is important in a half marathon, a marathon, or further. What racing will do is help you trust in this process. And what it typically looks like if it's a big city marathon is you're stood for a long period of time, usually more than 45 minutes, packed in, and the only thing that you can really do is come onto your toes and activate your calves, and exactly the same with your hamstrings, your glutes, your hip flexors, and your quads. And then you're taking it easy in the beginning to get up to pace and the effort that you want to run. That can be stressful if you feel suboptimally prepared for your A-goal race, if you've been, which you should be, warming up properly before your runs, especially before your quality runs. And what racing does for you is put you through that process so that you get better at it and you understand what your body needs within 15-20 minutes of you setting off. It might be something as simple as, okay, I looked around me and lots of people, because it was cold, were wearing clothes that they threw off just before the start or just after the start. I needed some clothes where I could have stayed warm. You can change that. Imagine how better your race experience is for the goal race. Number 4, race week. Got everything from carb depletion to carb loading to what do I do the days before, how do I taper, I can't sleep. You've got this checklist that you've got to take. You're going to travel across the world or the country. The more that you rehearse this, the better you're going to become at it. And it's going to get to a point where it's automatic. Number 3, recovery. How long does it take you to bounce back? What I realized over the years was I wanted to jump back in as soon as I possibly could. I knew that active recovery was good for me and I would overdo it, especially with cycling. And what that would usually do is elongate the recovery, but also mentally, you need to give yourself a break, not just after a big race like a marathon, but also you've been training for the last 3 to 6 months in preparation from this. And with every high, which you will experience, there's nothing better than a marathon. It's brilliant to experience, but what you will experience is that high and then a low afterwards, this drop off, dark thoughts perhaps, depending on your personality, but getting used to that and rolling with the punches and just giving your body that break. Holiday is fantastic to take after your big A-goal race. Brilliant to just go and relax and spend time with the family. Number 2, fitness benchmarks. How many of us have got to the start line of the big goal A race and not been confident on the pacing, because a lot of the time we're running and we're training on fatigued legs? It's really good practice to have these checkpoints along the way to let yourself know, okay, where do you stand for 5K? Is the training moving you forward? Is it having an effect? That can easily be a training session too, but the race simulation together with that 5K or 10K experience can give you all of these skills. Number 1, and this is number 1 for a reason. If you've stuck around for this, you deserve it. Racing not only anchors the training block, it also gives purpose to why you're out there on a Sunday doing a long run and how that's feeding into what you're actually preparing for. Why are you out there doing hill reps on a Wednesday and really pushing yourself and seeing your heart rate rise? You can't get it under control, you mess it up. What's the point? All of this is fixed within racing, and it also helps you to go back and correct everything that you're doing wrong in training. You can see from racing where your weaknesses are. Maybe you've not got that extra gear that you'd really want. Maybe that's something you want to focus on in training. Maybe you lacked strength going up that hill in the race and you want to fix that. Some hill repeats. Racing will make you a faster runner, and it will improve all of your training as well as underline the reason for it. So stop waiting for perfect conditions and the perfect fitness. That's a big one. All waiting to be ready. You're never going to be ready. Just accept that, because you're constantly getting fitter. So we might as well get our hat in the ring, book a couple of races now.